For us, the National Union of Air Transport Employees has been involved with Arik Air before and after the receivership. That is NUATE, as representatives of a very large portion of the workforce, has directly engaged with the actual owners before the receivership. And we have continued to engage with the receiver's manager and his team since after the receivership. So the union is in a good place to know the real story of the airline with regard to its conditions pre and post receivership. Besides, the workers are true insiders who are genuine witnesses to the entire drama around the airline's misfortunes, and their story need be told. As their mouthpiece, we feel obligated to tell that story. So let us start with before the receivership. The story of the meteoric rise of Arik Air has already been told over and over and does not bear repeating here. What must be said, however, is that its equally meteoric fall was not at all surprising to discerning aviation insiders. This is because the business model employed by the owners was, ab initio, clearly anathema to sustainable growth. With benefit of hindsight, it is easy to see that the fall was a story foretold by its own very methods. Some of the founding missteps included, but not limited to, absence of proper due diligence, needs assessment, impacts assessment, forecast analysis, and clear business and operational objectives. These were all missing. In short, the airline was not properly founded, if you ask me. Based on the above, the owners based their aircraft acquisition on financial capacity alone, rather than actual needs. For example, the owners believed that new was better, so new generation aircraft were brought in without thought of the capacity of the market to recoup such huge costs. Our point is, investments should match with expected returns. If you spend so much to establish a place, then the market should also be able to offer so much. Otherwise, it will not make business sense. This was not the case of Arik. Based on the above, the preferred modern fleet was without regard to absence of local expertise, which compelled resort to foreign crew and maintenance outfits. In turn, without regard to the ability of accruable revenue to match up to foreign exchange requirements, considering high naira to dollar rates that grew worse over the years. In other words, if you have foreign crew, if you have foreign maintenance outfits, you will need dollars to settle them. And the cost of dollars was and still exceedingly inhibiting. Now, because the owners had easy access to money, at least that's our impression, they went for starting big instead of small, contrary to the industry best practices. The industry will know that in aviation it's best to start small. As such, the airline grew too big, too fast, without the benefit of adequate preparations for the delicate tasks associated with managing large operations. For example, the owners thrust themselves into continental and intercontinental operations without adequate preparations for personnel, infrastructure, and experience. Of course, we are talking with benefit of hindsight. We are not blaming anybody here. Of course, the well-known direct cause of the mishap was financial recklessness and lack of discipline, whereby the entirety of revenue accruing to the airline was seen as personal revenue and acted upon as such. There was bound to be negative repercussions for such profligacy. But the above was about the business. What about the condition of the workforce before liquidation? There was no conditions of service or any HR manual known to the workers beyond the letter of employment. Workers were then treated based on the whims of the employer and some opportune managers. For example, there were stories of workers sacked for failing to greet the chairman if he happened to pass by, as there were no defined disciplinary procedures. Personnel were hired and fired at the whim of the owners. There was no defined scheme of service or salary structure, nor recruitment philosophy. As such, personnel were hired and allocated salaries at the owner's whims and discretion, leading to widespread animosities and acrimony around remunerations and seniority. There were no promotions, save for a few who were favored by the owners. Personnel taxes and pensions were being statutorily deducted, but not remitted nor saved. Workers were not allowed to join or participate in trade union activities, so there was denial of freedom of association. As such, there was no collective bargaining, despite spirited efforts by 3 trade unions. The foregoing was the state of Arik Air during the period preceding the receivership. The workers were in a terrible state of suffering, and the business was headed south. It was not any wonder, therefore, that we arrived at the point of receivership. The only wonder is the thinking among some that there would have been a different outcome given the prevailing